the next panel is blockchain real estate around the world. Given that IBREA is obviously an international association, I just thought it made sense to have representation from several other countries. And so here we're very lucky to have our chapter chairs from, going in order, the UK, Mexico, Italy, Thailand, and Brazil. So let's just first start, if you could each introduce yourselves and your background, what you're doing in blockchain and real estate.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is James Dearsley. Well done for lasting to the end. It's been a long day. So I represent the London chapter. I've been involved with the book industry for 15 years now. I've been involved with blockchain probably 4 or 5 years ago. One of the first to chat with Kramer in a live video discussion, and it seems like it's been a long journey since then. I'm very much, if I can say, I'm the traditional real estate guy with the blockchain experience at the back end. I'm not the technologist, and for me it's one of the biggest challenges I think we all face, which is actually trying to get some demonstration as to how blockchain really works in the real world, and avoids a lot of the techno babble, which I think we do see in front of us a lot of the time, which can confuse a lot of the industry that we're trying to bring into the sort of the 21st century. So I think it's one of the biggest challenges that I face personally in this educative process that we have.
Is this on? Yeah. So hi, my name is Agurto. I represent the chapter of Mexico. Well, I am a senior project manager at IBREA, which is one of the biggest think tanks in Mexico. And we are focusing the implementation of blockchain from the public policy perspective. I'm going to talk a little more about the project we're proposing right now from one public registry of the state of Hidalgo in Mexico. But we are seeing blockchain as one of the main tools right now to create efficiencies in the local government. So right now, I don't know this. Yeah? Sorry. So we're seeing blockchain as one of the main tools to create innovation in local governments. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So right now we are, well, I'm involved in IBREA since this year. We got the chance to chair a conference with Noga, which she was the former president, vice president, I think. So we met there and we started thinking about how to change Mexico's view of blockchain. Right now in Mexico there is a big wave of developers working on fintech mostly, but not all of them are considering using blockchain in other type of transactions. So right now we have we're a small chapter. Right now we have 25 members, but we are associating and getting partnerships with other associations so we can have a little bit more outreach in Mexico.
Okay, and I'm Alexandra Dell Orto. I'm an architect, so a real estate architect, no IT architect. So I'm chapter chair of Milan, Italy, and this is the second time I'm here of IBREA World Congress. So I was in Los Angeles last year, and many things, positive things happened this year in the real estate sector and blockchain. So I'm a personal portfolio manager also in the crypto funds in Milan, and I'm involved also in the startup of Rickshares, who presented last year, and who create a bridge between blockchain and real estate in the first time in Italy also. We had 4 meetups during the year in Milan, and there are a lot of potential in Italy of the development blockchain sector, company, and also real estate.
Hi, my name is Denis Nemstev. I'm from Bangkok, Thailand. I joined the chapter chair 3 days ago. And originally from Russia, I moved to Bangkok 12 years ago and got a degree in computer science. And in Thailand, I became a real estate broker and ran my real estate brokerage for 5 years before starting a real estate portal called HeFlat. And HeFlat is one of the top 3 real estate portals in Thailand, listing about 250,000 properties, 500,000 visitors every month, and 30,000 monthly leads delivered to property agents, developers, and private sellers, and landlords. So this year we started to look into blockchain and especially how it can solve the transparency issues in a very fragmented and opaque market like Thailand, which has nonetheless no any public transaction records.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Markunas. First, on behalf of the chair of the IBREA Sao Paulo chapter, who is Giuliano Viana, who could not be here, I'd like to thank Ragnar and Sasha for inviting me to represent them. I'd also like to mention that we do have 2 Brazilian members of IBREA Sao Paulo here, Flavio and Gigaji. Please say hello. They flew 14 hours from Sao Paulo via Buenos Aires to be here. That was very nice of them just for this conference. My background, yeah, thank you. We're here to learn, just like all of us. My background dates back to 2007 when I was one of the first individuals in the title insurance industry here in the States to conduct a deep dive of due diligence in Brazil with the anticipation of opening up that market. I worked for First American Title Company as VP, and we decided not to go into Brazil. In fact, they pulled out of all of Latin America for some reason. Since then, I turned into a consultant representing companies going into Brazil in the real estate industry. One of my first clients was CoreLogic, doing a deep dive again and looking at how to advance Brazil with their technologies. I also became a licensed real estate broker in Brazil and also a certified appraiser. So I had my hands, and I lived and worked in Brazil for 4 years. So I had my hands in a lot of the stuff that I hope blockchain is going to fix. Which includes a lot of fraud, a lot of bureaucracy, and corruption. The Sao Paulo chapter has had 2 meetups thus far. There's a 3rd one coming up November 22nd, and we had 20 people, I guess not like members, show up for the first one. 70 showed up for the second one. We're anticipating 100 to 120 for the 3rd one, which we think is pretty good. The type of people that are showing up is interesting. In the first couple of meetups, the public would come, and the majority of them were attorneys. And they had heard about blockchain and were coming to expect or to hear how blockchain was going to cure all of Brazil's bureaucracy ills, sort of help clean it up, sort of a panacea. They left a little bit, perhaps, disappointed when they learned that blockchain is not going to do that immediately. So there's a certain perception that they came with. Subsequent to that, blockchain is getting a little bit more attention down there, but in Brazil, I think in comparison to other countries, including my colleagues here, Brazil is behind them all in terms of blockchain education, across the board. It's more advanced in the fintech area. So I have other thoughts on how blockchain is going to help the real estate industry, and maybe we can talk about them later.
John, do you want to do the slides now?
Oh, yeah, I don't have a lot of, don't worry, I only have 1 slide.
You're so organized, I'm exceedingly jealous.
Brazil is a huge country. It's about the size of the continental United States. It's a population of close to 210 million. And it's composed of 26 states and a capital city of Brasilia in the center of the country. It's had its ups and downs. It is, however, considered the economic powerhouse of South America. Going into South America, you cannot avoid looking at it research in Brazil as an entry point for any products or services, including blockchain or title insurance for that matter, which didn't happen. But I think the main thing is that the Sao Paulo area, the city of Sao Paulo and the state of Sao Paulo and the other Minas Gerais, the other state in the south, is the economic engine of Brazil. About 40% of the GDP is produced in the industrial states of Sao Paulo and Minas Gerais. So anybody going down for business usually ends up in Sao Paulo. A lot of problems in Brazil. It's very fragmented. The real estate industry and the mortgage industry is completely siloed in terms of virtually everything. There is no MLS system in Brazil. The closest thing to an MLS, multiple listing service, are real estate portals and maybe brokerage firms. The brokerage firms are also fragmented. They do not cooperate with each other. They operate as silos. And so there's a big gap with information and data. There's no escrow system in Brazil, which is kind of interesting. We tried to bring that down with title insurance. And can you imagine, as a broker down there, one of my first deals was with an American investor buying a beach house. He sort of freaked out when he had to write a 10% check as a deposit and turn it over to the seller. I thought that was kind of weird too, but that's the way it works, especially in the residential deals. So in terms of opportunities, you consider there's no MLS. Brazil's going to jump leap over MLS and get into something more electronic and technical, which I believe will be blockchain at some point. Other target markets include the banks, certainly the mortgage industry. There's one bank in Brazil, it's Caixa, it's a federal bank called Caixa Federal. They do 95% of the mortgages. We see them as probably being a catalyst to bring blockchain to the forefront. And Julio Viana and myself talked about perhaps doing a pilot program with the Caixa Bank. It's going to be difficult. They are bureaucratic. They are part of the federal government. And so I think in conclusion, in terms of the opportunities there, as a developing country, it's wide open. And I'm very happy to say that I think blockchain is going to be implemented quicker there as soon as we get people educated and get the applications down there. So.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the rest of the panel. Could you comment on how the real estate communities in each of your jurisdictions is dealing with blockchain, if at all? Is there a growth of startups in this phase? I mean, you heard a lot about it, mostly in the United States during the earlier part of the conference, but comparatively, what's it like in your jurisdiction?
Okay, I'll start that. So in England, I think it's one of the things I struggle with most, if I'm honest, because I think most of the people in this room have got a head start on every single person out there. I would be fascinated to know actually how many real estate brokers, agents are actually here in the room, because of the meetups that I've done.
You can raise your hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, real estate brokers, agents. Okay, so about 20% of people perhaps in the room here are of the real estate genre. Now, that's my fear for everything that we're doing here, and I think we owe it to ourselves to really consider that in the largest conference about blockchain in real estate, only 20% of the audience is actually from real estate. Now, I'm seeing a similar thing within the UK, which is the Real Estate Association is only now starting to put blockchain in its lexicon of language. Do they actually understand what the hell they're talking about? I don't think they do. And this is my challenge, this is my problem, and this is what I put to every single one of us as chapter chairs and actually in the audience here, which we can't forget that the very people that we are potentially disrupting and innovating are the people that are still not listening. And that is a problem for me, and I think it's the biggest challenge from an organization like IBREA and the companies out there like Relux and Proppy and Kramer. There is a massive, and we cannot underestimate the size of the educative process we're about to undertake with the real estate industry to start bringing them on board. And the complexities of the things that we're talking about today And I've got to be honest, I consider myself a real estate man at heart. Some of the things we talked about today are so far over my head, it's ridiculous. And I think we have that responsibility as an organization to take it back down a level and actually bring the real estate people on board with us to actually help them understand just what the hell is going on. And that is a challenge I put to everybody here. Good luck. But certainly within the UK, the lexicon's starting, the dialogue is starting, the meetings I'm having with some of the biggest real estate firms globally. I was in Argentina last week, so I can adhere to everything that you guys are saying about working strategy with the global bank, looking at how they can actually integrate blockchain into their transactional processes. It's coming, but we cannot start getting too technical on this language. We have to remember who we're trying to help and innovate.
So just to comment on that, we mentioned this in my speech, I think. One of the projects that I'm working on is a blockchain real estate 101 curriculum, basically. So I'm licensed, among other things, to be a real estate instructor in the state of New York, and I actually have been teaching courses to real estate brokers and agents on traditional real estate law issues. But when I've introduced myself as a blockchain attorney, a few people have come up to me and said, what the hell is blockchain? So there has been interest from their side as well to attend a course that basically teaches a one-on-one level, and that's something that for IBREA we would love to be able to expand to other jurisdictions, whether it's through recording it and just having it available to people to view online, or actually coordinating with local lawyers, local instructors to teach it to really anyone in the world in the real estate business. Because I agree. I mean, what's interesting about the curriculum is that I'm partnering with a computer programmer. So it's I'm kind of doing the basic real estate and law, and she'll do a one-on-one tech side, because and that's really why I showed the video earlier today. Visually, it's a lot easier to see okay, how this thing works. After a day of talking about it, I'm not sure how many people walk away feeling like I know 100% what blockchain is. I know what a hash. I know what to mine. I know what a wallet is, and multi-sig. There are a lot of terms we've been throwing out there that I think 100% I agree with you need to be taken down a bit so that we understand the basics.
I think if I can just be a bit flippant.
You can.
Sorry, I'm British. I shouldn't be flippant, but I am. One of the things I'm finding is a challenge in the PropTech movement, which is what I've been involved with for the last 5 or 6 years, is that agents, brokers, and this is going to generalize a little bit, they struggle with an iPad. They struggle with understanding that software is going to help them in their business. And it's true, and it's in some cases, and I think this is where we've got to simplify the whole thing and help them understand.
So yeah, well, in the case of Mexico, I said it before, but Mexico is right now involved in blockchain, but in fintech technology. So when we start talking about how to use other types of assets, they are like, what are you talking about? And one thing that we are facing, one of the challenges in Mexico is that because of the type of the project we are trying to undertake, we are not only, face the brokers, we are also facing the notaries, because we want to implement a project that is going to change the system, how the system works. I mean, how we can change the process of the public registry. So we're facing a big challenge with the notaries, because it's a very strong union in Mexico, and mostly the heads of the title registries are former notaries, so sometimes it's very difficult. Happily, we have right now a willingness, a really nice willingness from one of the heads of a public registry, so he's on board right now. But we're facing like a lot of restrictions regarding regulation of notaries, and also I think that we are very, very behind with some stuff that we were talking this day, all day, because some states in Mexico are not are not allowed to use the digital signature, for example. So we are facing like problems that are not right now in the table here, but I think that we also are forgetting about that. And also, I think one of the other big challenges within this project is that we have to remember that also the people that are right now in government are another big and important audience that we have to approach, because they are the ones that make the decisions finally.
And so before we continue, I just wanted to repeat what Ragnar, I believe, mentioned earlier, which is that one of the other objectives of IBREA is actually working with local governments in the U.S. and elsewhere, because I think, that what was interesting about the pilot project in Cook County, Illinois, from what I understand, it was actually someone within the reporter's office who approached Ragnar, right? It wasn't the opposite, and so it's obviously a lot more productive if it comes from within the government, but we understand, and I've done this in another association for real estate as well, we understand that governments don't have the budget to do research and development. So to the extent that any of you, would like to work with IBREA in developing basically a product, either a guide or just the basic tools that we can provide local governments to convince them that, what the expected budget would be to implement something like this. What are the basic issues that are going to be challenges for them, like digital signature, which wouldn't necessarily be obvious, etc. So I think then if we at least present it to them, at least we have a better chance of getting this implemented rather than waiting for them to come to us, frankly. So we're definitely aware that that's a challenge. Alex?
Yeah, in Italy there are a different perspective about land registry and notary and so on, because luckily our system is very strong and there are very few fraud cases. So we are concentrated to, I agree with James about forward. So we are concentrated to discussion what blockchain can change in the real estate world, and we are concentrated to explain to people how to store value. So I think, and I suggest to anybody to go to people and teach how to save your password. That's the first things, okay? Because in the real estate there is a lot of value stored in the wallet sometimes. In a few years, I think we can have our home in mobile and a lot of value. I don't say money because the money doesn't exist. It's only on our mind. The value of our house is important. Another important thing is we create in Italy a network. So my goal next year is to involve all part of the network, real estate network. So we invited a big company in Milan, a real estate company. They are interested to be a pilot and to maybe to have the first token in Italy in the neighborhood. And now we study how to manage that, because we don't want the security, okay? Because there is the same problem in Italy, like US about security. And also we involve a notary. Is a big part of the pictures. We involve a constructor. We involve agents. I think to understand the blockchain is a value of a network where you work, where you approach is a key. It's a key thing. So anybody have to be on the shadow, okay? To be part on the network, do something on the network, so we can program our coins, And we can program also our real estate activity in the building and in the neighborhood, I think. And this is a big challenge. Thanks.
Dennis?
Okay, so blockchain community in Thailand is almost...
We can't hear you. Yeah, blockchain community in Thailand almost non-existent. I'm aware of two events on the topic of blockchain that were held this year, and they were basic events explaining what blockchain is, nothing specific to real estate technology. But when I was on the way to the conference, I shared a message on Facebook that I'm going to this conference, and the amount of, I got a few dozens of likes, so the amount of interest I'm getting, and I got a few messages from people who are interested to learn more about blockchain, so they're from Thailand, from real estate space. So I think it's a good time to start the events and start the discussions. I know that a lot of real estate developers in Thailand will be willing to be involved in these discussions, because starting from last year, there is a lot of interest in all the top property developers announced their way towards the digitization of their businesses and applying more tech. They opened their startup accelerators and started to do corporate VC investment in startups. So I think they will be quite open to talk about blockchain application in real estate, in solving some issues we have in Thailand. So in Thailand, I think that in terms of transacting property, this is quite straightforward and safe process already. So putting it on blockchain will not make a huge difference. Thailand has a torrents title system, so basically a transaction is where a buyer and seller go to the land office, and land office guarantees that like every property has a title deed, which is like a huge paper with history of all the previous owners and previous transactions and whatever any encumbrances like mortgages, it's all there. And the last record, who's basically mentions the owner of the title, and land office guarantees that the transaction is safe. There are no any title insurance, there are no any lawyers involved in the transaction. It can be done in 2 hours, and the land office can provide a standard sale and purchase agreement for you. So where we had a problem is around the decision-making process. So Thailand market is very fragmented, and basically there is a number of real estate portals, and also there are hundreds of websites that belong to brokers and agents, all the listings are spread across all those websites. And normally people start searching from Google, then go to each of the website, and all the online space is flooded with fake and expired listings. So it's very hard to figure out when you look at a property what is the fair price of this property will be. So He Flats, when we launched it 4 years ago, we became the first and still the only property portal in Thailand that provides not just access to listings, but also information on historical pricing data. So for over 2,000 buildings in Bangkok, we show historical pricing graphs for the past 10 years. So you can look at the building and see how the price was evolving in the past 10 years. And we are currently the only source of this information. And although it is based on the asking prices, it's still quite usable, because there is no any publicly shared government database for the first transaction. So it's our data used by lenders to do the valuation, and by property developers to research the competition, and by real estate investors to pick the right properties to invest. So we're currently a product where we can put all this information about the currently available real estate listings, and also past real estate transactions and transactions that are happening right now onto the blockchain, and into kind of crowdsourced database where there are all the parties involved, all the, including real estate agents and property developers and private landlords, buyers and sellers, and we will also incentivize the participants on this network to take active part and do the verification of the submitted information. So I think this kind of solution could leapfrog Thailand into the future where we actually have transparent market, and so this I believe are the ways to hugely improve the liquidity on the market, because right now there is a lot of friction and lots of things are not happening just because people are scared to overpay.
Thank you. John, I think you probably answered the question earlier, but we're running out of time, so I'd just like to kind of finish with, for those of us in the room who are curious about new jurisdictions for investment purposes or otherwise, could you just each of you give kind of a 1 or 2 minute brief overview of the positives and the negatives of your jurisdiction? Something that, outsiders need to look out for and should appreciate.
Okay, so just quickly for me, one of the things that I thought was initially a negative was the fact that in the UK, obviously, we have one of the most traditional land registry systems, which has been around for many generations, very trusted, very centralized, and that was a big risk, and even to the extent that I was in a PropTech panel, and we were asked what was the most sensational thing to happen over the next 10 years, and some of the panels were like, blockchain is going to be the biggest thing, and I said, it's never going to be, ever, because the land registry system will never open itself up to a blockchain trial. 24 hours later, there was a press release saying that the Bank of England had indeed decided to trial blockchain. So I was eating my words considerably. So what was initially one of the biggest resistance for the UK market has now become probably one of the most positive, which is the land reg is now open to using blockchain and they're becoming very digitized. For me, the biggest resistance is simply the complete inertia of the industry to take on board some of the exciting challenges that we have ahead of us across all residential, retail, commercial, industrial construction. Every single one of us can be impacted by what this stuff is doing, but we've got to learn it.
Thank you. So, besides regulation, I think that right now the positive things in Mexico is that there are 2 law initiatives. There are right now, one is pushed by the executive power and the other by the Congress, and both are trying to settle the minimal rules or the guidelines for all the property authorities. So that's one of the, I think, the positive things, like they are trying to change the environment a little bit. The negative things is that right now, I think that one of the biggest challenge, even though the government, the local and federal government are willing to do this, is that people are refusing to change. So, and what happening in Mexico is that if you want to change how the process is right now, you have to start with the local governments, and in the local governments, the level of instruction and I don't know how to say this, but the people that are working right now in the local government, they don't want to change the system. So right now with project, we try to take this as a lesson learned, and we're trying to also incorporate one component on training and to try to deal with it. So, yeah.
Okay, positive things, negative things. In Italy, things about real estate, there are a lot of, and blockchain are positive, they're more positive than negative. One positive is the Italian like to invest in real estate. So maybe they like to invest in real estate in other countries. And it's good for potential to spread the word, create a network. Another thing positive, I think now Italy is very fair our country, the price of the house are a very fair price or undervalued. I check it in different analysis. So it's good to invest in Italy in the real estate, and with the blockchain, if we will have a good framework of a law for tokenization, maybe it's good to save money and invest in Italy from outside of the world. The negative and other positive things is, I told before, we have a good network of different blockchain projects. Okay, we have a student who use blockchain and teach blockchain to others in Rome. So there are different programs in different parts of Italy. There are miners, there are startuppers. So there is a network on the world. It's named Blockchain Lab. It's a hub of the different parts of the world. So they develop with the blockchain core team some part of the Bitcoin and the other. So the negative are always a government because at that we put we try to understand what's happened with the law and government. And there is a task force lawyer, very strong, and they beginning to create a law in Italy in proper way. Why? In Italy now, the negative thing is that there are a lot of media all the time to speak about blockchain and Bitcoin. Normally the first thing is, yes, it's deep web things, and you can buy drugs and drugs and arms and so on, and you can finance terrorists. There's 3 or 4 phrases in each review, in each newspaper, in each website. So, and that's we try to change that. We had a big fight with the journalists because we discovered they pay it from the banks. But because there are a lot of lobby interest in Italy to make slow down the process because they want to think about it, what's happened. They know the storm arrived. Okay, we try to create that with that task force lawyer, the good law in Italy, because we have a lot of potential, like a startupper idea and so on, but nobody wants to found a startup in Italy in the blockchain sector. Nobody. So
Maybe there's someone here who'll volunteer. How about
no. Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Yep.
go on.
Okay, so I already mentioned lack of transparency is one of the negative sides in the Italian real estate market. So that I can add that there is also no licensing whatsoever for real estate agents, and basically there are a lot of people who are non-professionals involved in the market, and many of them are doing this part-time. So whenever they have a violent for property, they can match them with a property. They can, like actually make some commission. So on the positive side, I'd say this is a very, if you look at South Asia, so Thailand is one of the very active, healthy, and growing markets. The annual price appreciation was 5% for the past decade, and you can make 5-6% of rental yields in Bangkok. So it's still a good investment. It's the foreign investment in Thai property is growing, especially from China. So yeah, that's the positive things that I can mention.
It sounds like Brazil has a lot of problems, Thailand does, but I want to close by saying I think we in IBREA need to do 3 things in Brazil. The first is education, the second is education, the third is education. After that, things will fall into place, and people like me who do business development and marketing have an easier job of getting the products and services down there. You know, it's funny, talking about target markets. Well, the positive is that Brazil is extremely fragmented. There are fewer legacy institutions there that will impede the introduction of blockchain. I believe that this technology will leapfrog a lot of stuff that's there now, and they'll be quicker than maybe some other developed countries. In terms of target markets, one of the challenges we have with IBREA in Sao Paulo, all they talk about in Brazil is land registry, the application of blockchain in land registry. And one of the things that I've talked to Juliana Viana, the chair, is we need to talk about other things with the public down there. And this next meeting, November 22nd, we're...
John, the microphone is on.
What's that?
The microphone's turned on.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, here we go. So, the next meeting, November 22nd, we're setting up a panel. One's going to be an attorney talking about the legal issues with blockchain, introducing it to the real estate market. The second is we're having a government official from Sao Paulo state government give a report and a presentation. And I was invited on the panel also to fill in on the other things besides land registry that we need to talk about in Brazil, which is everything else. And there are several startups here that I've talked to that I'm going to be talking about in Brazil, different applications outside of the land registry. So there's a lot of opportunity there. I also think we should have a couple more IBREA chapters in Brazil. And in terms of startups, in the real estate environment, nada. There's not one single startup in Brazil in the real estate ecosphere, which it surprised me, but that's the case. So we have a lot of work to do.
Okay, on that note, are there any questions for our panel? You're just waiting for the beat. Okay, yes.
Are there,
Can you hear?
what's your name?
James.
Hey, James.
Sorry, that was a bit loud.
Nice work, what you're doing. So you were talking about educating agents.
Yeah.
So are any of them accepting their commission in Bitcoin? And if so, how would that work?
Or Ether,
Or either.
or Litecoin,
Or
or whatever.
any crypto.
I think
I've done it quite simply. I'll give you a quick rundown. I'm at Douglas Elliman. I set up Keller Williams when I was over there. It was one of my Bitcoin clients. He decided the owner didn't want to take it. The commission was paid in Bitcoin, and quite simply, we just had it exchanged on the back end. And I think we ended up, but it's essentially a marketing thing. If the company doesn't want to assume any risks, they can just switch it over, and that's how it is. We ended up with actually 10% rip on it as the price went up, and my company, I had to still explain to them as it went, but it effectively works as a marketing tool because you can just arbitrage it out on the side.
I think talking about it as being a marketing tool, from my perspective, he's like the only guy ever to take commission in Bitcoin, so many congratulations. But traditionally, all the agents, they hardly know what Bitcoin is, let alone taking commission in Bitcoin. But about 3-4 weeks ago, there was a big press release out of the UK where there's a big property developer run by a famous person, so it's a complete publicity stunt. He's starting to sell developments. Yeah, exactly. Well,
so she said.
a loose Duchess, who's taking Bitcoin payment for a property in Dubai. So that's the first bit in the UK of the word Bitcoin being associated with a property development out there. So they struggle to understand what Bitcoin is, let alone what blockchain. And if I may just say, I've been pretty much with most of the biggest real estate consultancies, companies, estate agents, commercial agents in the last 6 months with some of the work that I do. And it's on their agenda, it's written there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have that complete understanding of what it means to them. To bring your point, John Paul, earlier on, in terms of they are starting to talk about land reg, they're not understanding smart contracts, but they're starting to go, something's in this. So, we are all in a fantastic position to take take heart from everything that we're all sort of talking about here, and I think we are ideally positioned to be able to give that research, that response, that help, that aid that all of these large global corporations are needing at the minute, as well as the little local guys as well who need to understand what's going on.
Well, thank you, everyone.